The living organisms, characteristics, and habitats.
All the living beings, plants, and animals are called organisms. The body features of all organisms are suited to the place where they live. A camel lives in a desert where water is scarce. Therefore, its body is suited to such conditions. It has a hump in which it can store food and water so that it can survive for many days without water. It has long legs to keep its body away from the heat of the desert sand. A camel has dry skin which does not sweat and therefore does not lose water. It has padded hoofs which help it to walk on sand. All these features help a camel to survive in the desert. A yak has short legs. Its body is covered with long, thick hair to protect it from extreme cold of the Himalayan mountains. Its body has a lot of fat to survive in the winters. A turtle has a soft body which can hide inside its exoskeleton. It can live both on land and into the water. It has a tail which helps it to swim. The presence of specific features or certain habits of an organism that help it to survive in its surroundings are called adaptation. In addition to physical features, adaptation can be in the form of habits also. A fish has a streamlined body which helps it to cut through water and move forward. It has fins that allow it to change its direction. It has gills which help it to absorb the dissolved oxygen in water. Do you think a fish can live on land or a camel can live in water? Why? All organisms need a place to live where they can get plenty of food, shelter, and protection from enemies and adverse conditions. The area or surroundings in which an organism lives is called its habitat. Components of a habitat. A habitat has two types of components, biotic and abiotic. Biotic components. These are all the living organisms, including plants and animals, present in a habitat. As we have discussed in our previous chapter, that all plants and animals need food to grow and survive. We are dependent on plants and other animals for our food. On the basis of food habits, living organisms can be divided into four categories. Producers. Green plants which prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis are called producers. Can you name some examples of producers? Consumers. All non-green plants and animals are called consumers as they depend on the food prepared by the plants. They are of mainly three types. Herbivores. The animals which feed only on plants are called herbivores. They are also called primary consumers. For example, goat, cow, deer, elephant, etc. Carnivores. The animals that feed on other animals are called carnivores. These animals are also called secondary consumers. For example, lion, tiger, shark, etc. Omnivores. The animals that feed on both plants as well as animals are called omnivores. For example, cats, crows, men, etc. Scavengers. Some animals feed on dead animals. These animals are called scavengers. For example, dogs, vultures, hyena, etc. Decomposers. The microorganisms which feed on the dead bodies of plants and animals and decompose them into simple substances are called decomposers. For example, bacteria and fungi are decomposers. On the other hand, non-living things do not need any food. Their energy comes from other sources. When the energy flow is stopped, they stop working. Abiotic components. The non-living components of a habitat like the rocks, soil, air, water, sunlight, and temperature are called abiotic components of that habitat. These are very important for the growth of an organism. Soil. Soil is one of the essential components required for the growth of plants. It provides nutrients to plants like minerals and water. Air. Air is a mixture of gases and it is present everywhere in the surroundings. Plants release oxygen in the air during the process of photosynthesis, and all living beings are dependent on oxygen to respire. It also serves as the medium of pollination in plants. Light. Light is very important for growth. Plants need sunlight to prepare their food. Light helps animals to see and move around. There are many plants whose flowers open in sunlight and close at sunset. Water. We already know that water is essential for life. The quantity of water available also affects the features of the plants and animals of a particular habitat. The desert plants have adapted themselves to survive in very less water, whereas the plants growing near rivers or streams require a large amount of water. Temperature. All living organisms can survive only within a specific temperature ranges. We can live only within specific temperatures. In extreme winter or extreme summer, we feel quite uncomfortable. If we go to a very cold place, we wear a lot of woolen clothes to keep ourselves warm. Have you ever seen a penguin wearing a sweater? Can you give the reason for the same? Fire. Fire is also an abiotic factor. Although it is not an essential component for growth, its presence can destroy the habitat of many plants and animals. Forest fires spread very rapidly and are very difficult to control. However, they also cause the growth of entirely different plants and animals of an area on the affected land. Types of habitat. Habitats can be generally of two types: aquatic and terrestrial. Aquatic habitat. Aqua means water. The habitats which are in or around water are called aquatic habitats. These can be further divided into saline and freshwater habitats. Oceans, seas, and certain lakes are saline habitats. Rivers, ponds, swamps, examples of freshwater habitats. Terrestrial habitat. Terra means land. All the habitats present on land are called terrestrial habitats. Forests, deserts, grasslands, mountains, and coastal areas are examples of terrestrial habitats. Habitat. Aquatic habitat. Freshwater, marine, estuaries, ponds, rivers and streams, lakes, seas, oceans. Terrestrial habitat. Deserts, mountains and polar regions, grasslands.
Tropical rainforests.
Over a long period of time, let's say thousands of years, the environment of a place change. Those animals which adapt to the changes survive while others die or become extinct. This adaptation also leads to some changes in their body structures and habits. This is the reason for the presence of such a large number of plants and animals on the earth.
Features of different habitats.
Aquatic habitats. These can be further divided into the following categories based on their location. Freshwater habitats. This habitat includes rivers, ponds, streams, and lakes. They are formed by groundwater, rainwater, or melted snow from the mountains. Plants like lotus and water lilies are found in freshwater habitats. Marine habitat. Oceans and seas are marine habitats. These are also called saline habitats as the water contained in them is saline or salty. These are home to a large number of animals and plants. For example, corals, whales, octopus, seaweed, etc. Estuaries. Estuaries are the region in the coastal areas where the fresh water or stream meets the saline water of the sea or ocean, forming
A delta.
groups of trees called mangroves grow in this habitat. Animals like crabs, oysters, and
Shellfish.
are found here. Aquatic plants and animals are the ones which live in water. Fish live inside water but generally move in its
Upper layers. They have streamlined bodies.
octopus lives in the depths of oceans and does not move much. Its body is not streamlined. An octopus has 8 arms and has the ability to regrow its arms if any of the arms is cut. Aquatic plants are quite different from
Terrestrial ones.
aquatic plants can be generally divided into
3 types.
floating plants.
These plants
Do not have well developed roots and they float with the current of water. Their flowers and leaves remain above water, for example, duckweed. Fixed aquatic plants. The flowers and leaves of these plants float on water, but their stems remain fixed to a place. The roots are poorly developed. For example, lotus and water lily. The stem of lotus is very long, thin, and has air canals in it. The leaves are big and round. The petals and leaves have a waxy coating on them to prevent them from rotting.
Submerged plants.
Some plants like Hydrilla and Vallisneria remain submerged inside the water.
Terrestrial habitats. Deserts.
The areas which receive very less rainfall and therefore have very less vegetation are called
deserts.
The soil is mostly sandy, water bodies are few and far from each other. Deserts are very hot during the day but cold during the night. The plants present in deserts have adapted themselves to conserve water. This can be seen by studying the modifications in a cactus plant. The stem of the cactus plant is fleshy and swollen to retain water. It is green as it prepares food by photosynthesis. Leaves have turned into spines to minimize
the water loss
by transpiration. The roots go deep down under the soil in search of water. The stem also has a waxy coating on it to prevent water loss. The animals living in the desert have also adapted themselves to the high temperatures of their habitat. The deserts are full of snakes, scorpions, rats, etc. To escape the heat of the desert, these animals live in the burrows dug under the ground during the day and come out during the night. Their eyes are also adapted to see at night. Mountains and polar regions. Mountain areas are generally cold with very high peaks having ice caps on them. The organisms living there have adapted themselves to the very cold climate. The trees are cone-shaped with
needle-like leaves.
How is this adaptation helpful to them? The leaves are also of very dark green in color to capture more sunlight for making food as hilly areas receive very less sunlight. The animals are also adapted to living in the snow. A polar bear has white fur to merge with its
surroundings.
The fur is also very thick to protect its body from the cold. The fur even covers its feet, which are thickly padded to walk on snow. The body of polar bear has a thick layer of fat which keeps it warm and also provides energy during the winter months when there is
less food for it.
A mountain goat can move very quickly on mountain slopes without falling down. This is because it has very strong hooves. A snow leopard is white and has long hair to protect it from snow. An interesting phenomena is observed in the case of polar fox.
Grasslands.
The land areas dominated by grasses with a few trees or shrubs are called grasslands. Since the color of the surrounding is light brown, generally animals have light brown color. The trees have very long, deep roots to hold them tightly to the soil. The tree trunk is long so that the leaves are at a height to prevent them from
being eaten by the animals.
The branches are flexible to prevent them from breaking when strong winds blow. Lion, tiger, elephant, giraffe, deer, zebra, etc. are the animals found in grasslands. The carnivores dominate the jungle and are always on the lookout for small or weak animals whom they can kill for food. The animal which hunts other animals for food is called the predator, and the animal which is hunted by the predator is called the prey. The features of both the predator and the prey are suited to their needs. A lion is a predator. Therefore, its hooves are padded so that it can silently attack an animal from behind. Its big claws are hidden inside its toes but come out when it attacks. Its eyes are in front of its head to see its prey clearly from very far. Its teeth are big and pointed to tear the flesh of its prey. On the other hand, a deer has long but strong legs so that it can run fast. Its eyes are on the sides of its head to see in all directions and spot its enemies from all sides. Its ears are long and pointed to hear even the lightest sound. At the slightest hint of trouble, it runs away very quickly to escape danger.
Tropical rainforests.
Tropical rainforests have warm climate. It rains throughout the year in this region. The trees are very dense, therefore, the amount of light reaching the ground is low. Leaves of plants have grooves and drip tips allow excess rainwater to fall off, thereby preventing leaf from rotting. Smaller plants have broad leaves to absorb maximum sunlight. A large number of animals such as monkeys and tigers are found here. Monkeys have strong arm muscles that help them to swing from one tree to another. Animals such as a stick insect use camouflage to escape from enemies. Birds such as parrots and toucans have strong curved beaks to crack tough shells. Living beings and their characteristics. Our surroundings consist of many things. Some of them are living, whereas some are non-living. At times, a characteristic shown by a living being may also be shown by a non-living thing. For example, living things show movement, but cars and buses also move from one place to another. Then, how do we differentiate between living and non-living things?
We say a particular thing is a living being if it shows all
Of the
following characteristics.
living things need food. All living organisms need food to get energy. Being producers, plants make their own food through photosynthesis. Animals are dependent on plants or other animals for their food to get energy and to grow. Living things grow. All living beings grow up to a certain size. We have earlier studied how a seed develops into a baby plant and then into a tree. Were you also a baby once? You will soon grow into an adult. Different organisms have different growth patterns. A butterfly lays eggs. These eggs grow into caterpillars. The caterpillars turn into larvae, then young butterflies, which further grow into
Adult butterflies.
this whole process is called the life cycle of a butterfly. On the other hand, non-living things remain the same in size. they do not show any growth. Living beings respire. All living beings breathe air. They have different organs for the same. Animals breathe through nose, gills, skin, blowholes, and more. The oxygen taken in from air helps the body to break down the food to release energy. This process is called respiration. In plants, the exchange of gases takes place through
leaves.
Oxygen of the air is taken in and carbon dioxide is released during respiration. Plants also release oxygen during photosynthesis. Since the amount of oxygen released during photosynthesis is more as compared to the oxygen utilized during respiration, the plants help in maintaining
the oxygen cycle.
You will study more about it in the other chapter. Living beings show response to stimuli. All living organisms show movements. Most of their movements are on their own, but some movements are due to some changes taking place in their surroundings. The change in the environment of an organism is called stimulus, and the reaction of that organism to the stimulus is called response. If we accidentally touch a very hot object, our hand is withdrawn immediately. The hotness is the stimulus and our action is the response. Many plants bend towards the source of light. The roots of many plants grow deep into the earth in search of water. Some flowers bloom only at night. These are all responses of plants to external
conditions.
Living beings excrete. The throwing away of unwanted or harmful waste products from the body is called excretion. Living organisms absorb all the nutrients from their food. The portion of food left after absorption is called waste and has to be thrown away. The animals excrete waste in the form of feces, urine, and carbon dioxide. Plants also remove the unwanted materials from their body. They shed their dried leaves and also remove the outer covering of the stem bark when it dries out. Plants release water vapor through the process called transpiration. During the process of photosynthesis, oxygen is produced. This is released into the atmosphere. Some other waste produced in plants are stored by them in such a way that they do not cause harm. Some wastes are removed as secretions. For example, a rubber plant produces a sap called latex in its stem.
Living beings reproduce.
All organisms reproduce their own kind so that the continuity of a particular kind of plant or animal is maintained. Some animals lay eggs. For example, fish, birds, snakes, etc. Some give birth to their young ones like human beings, cat, dogs, etc. Plants reproduce by many methods. Some produce seeds which on getting favorable conditions grow into a plant. Some plants can grow from other plant parts as well. You might have seen nodes on sugarcane. Each node has the ability to grow into a new plant. A small cutting of the stem of rose has ability to grow into a complete plant. Have you ever seen plants growing out of buds? When fixed in soil, these grow into
Plants.
living beings move. All living organisms show movement. These movements may be from one place to another or movement of a part of the body. Internal movements like transport of water, minerals, and food also take place inside the plant. We have already studied about various types of movements in previous chapter. We see movements in non-living things as well, but non-living things cannot move on their own. They need the help of some outside source of energy which makes them move. Living beings have definite lifespan. After completing their life cycle, all living beings die. The lifespan of living beings may vary from a few seconds to hundreds of years, but at some point the life cycle ends. Since all living beings reproduce, their type of organisms can continue to survive even if the individual organisms die. There are many non-living things in this world that may show a few characteristics similar to living beings, but
We typically consider something alive
only if it shows all the characteristics of
living beings.
the following table shows the average lifespan of some living beings. Living beings. Average lifespan. Housefly 4 to 15 weeks. Dragonfly 3 to 4 months. Mouse 2 to 3 years. Squirrel 8 to 9 years. Horse 25 to 30 years. Polar bear 40 to 45 years. Chimpanzee 55 to 60 years. Lion 20 to 25 years. Elephant 80 to 90 years.
Dog 12 to 15 years. Tortoise 150 to 200 years. Signs in the vicinity. The foliage is the name given to the leafy parts of a plant or a tree. The foliage of any habitat is adapted to the climatic conditions of that habitat. The leaves of a plant accordingly adopt to the prevailing conditions and acquire different shapes of lamina. This is why we see a variety of leaves with twisted lamina, plate-shaped lamina, furry lamina, piney lamina, etc.